Season of Discovery is going through something of a resurrection right now, and honestly, it's not what I expected to be talking about in 2026. The player base is still very small compared to what it once was, but there's a pattern here that we've seen before with Classic. Classic era was dead when it first started off, and then it was repopulated. Fresh servers always see waves of interest, and now Season of Discovery is experiencing its own little revival. You have to start somewhere. If you've ever been interested in Season of Discovery, you missed it out the first time around, or you want a temporary game mode to mess around with a little bit, this video should be for you. I'll go over the questions you may have about the current state of Season of Discovery, how to get started, what to do, and what the future for these servers looks like. So let's talk about how Season of Discovery got to where it is at the moment. This was Blizzard's second attempt at a seasonal server for World of Warcraft Classic, and it launched in November of 2023, which is kind of unbelievable to say that it's been that long ago, but here we are. The server is focused on massive changes to the original base game of vanilla. The reception at launch was absolutely phenomenal. The early phases saw nearly 500,000 raids logged weekly, though actual player numbers would have been substantially higher because, well, not everyone logs. Phase 1 felt like the best period for discovery, finding all the new runes, leveling up with people, uncovering class identities, and running all the new content. What many would consider a weaker Phase 2 and 3 would follow that, which led to significant player loss. Phase 2 had a Gnomeregan raid and raised the level cap to 40, but some of the changes and pacing started to show cracks in the formula, particularly in rune acquisition, and Phase 3 brought the cap to level 50 with a Sunken Temple raid, and while the content was there, the momentum from launch had clearly slowed, with one of the biggest issues being an upscaling in the raid size, though the season started to recover ground after level 60, with later phases bringing in brand new content such as a Karazhan Crypts dungeon, and the final phase brought in a Scarlet Crusade raid named the Scarlet Enclave, and that really was the last major content patch we saw, which was back in April of 2025, and it was in late May of 2025 when Blizzard put out their blue post saying that they were stopping active development on Season of Discovery and moving on to their next big project, and we're coming up on just about a year since then, and that's really where Season of Discovery stands today. The servers are online, development has concluded, and it exists kind of in a state similar to Classic era, where the lights are on, but you shouldn't expect anything to happen in the future. So what exactly made Season of Discovery different from regular Classic in the first place? Well, if you missed out the first time around or you're trying to reminisce about it, I'll go over a few of those things too. The biggest changes in Season of Discovery revolved around the rune system. It's a UI that looks like applying glyphs from later expansions. You get runes, engrave them onto your gear, unlock new abilities, and suddenly you're doing things that your class was never really designed to do in vanilla. Originally, you had to discover the runes out in the world too, and some were hidden behind puzzles, others required specific quests or drops, and hunting them down was part of the whole Season of Discovery identity. Now, I will admit it was engaging at first, but doing it on multiple alts became pretty tedious pretty quickly. That changed in December of 2024 when Blizzard added the rune brokers to starting zones and capital cities. These NPCs, which are pretty hard to miss in starting zones with their unique appearance, will now sell every single rune in the game for 1 copper each. You can just walk up to them as a fresh level 1 and instantly buy out your whole rune collection. You do need some certain pieces of armor you won't have at level 1, such as shoulders and head for certain runes, but you can always buy low quality items off the auction house or just equip anything you can find in the world. The original discovery quests for the runes do still exist too, though Blizzard did have to break some of them to get the rune vendor to work, so I wouldn't really count on replaying the whole game with discovering runes. Season of Discovery also had dual specialization, of course, and one of the more other exciting parts were the new class identities. Shamans can tank, warlocks can tank, rogues can tank, and mages can heal. And these weren't just gimmicks either, or saying how, well, paladin can tank in vanilla or shaman can tank in vanilla, because they can, sort of, but in Season of Discovery, they were real tanks. Shamans would use a Way of Earth rune, which would massively increase their armor and threat generation, and warlocks had a permanent metamorphosis form, transforming them into a demon, which again massively boosts their defensive capabilities. Rogues, on the other hand, would tank through super high avoidance through their dodge and parry stats, and the mage healer played kind of like how Discipline Priest does in Legion and Beyond, where you're applying buffs to party members, then you deal damage, and players with those buffs are healed. There was also massive class rebalancing through runes, talent changes, and completely new tier sets for specs that never had them in vanilla. Every single spec had a tier set in Season of Discovery. It wasn't just one tier set and that's it. There was even an enchant that mirrored a tier set effect of your choice, which opened up an enormous amount of class and spec diversity. There were level up raids too, and these were unique to Season of Discovery. Think instead of just doing dungeons to level up, there is now raid content. So there was Black Caverns Deep at 25, Gnomeregan at 40, and Sunken Temple at 50. You get to raid, you get really powerful gear, and you get a ton of XP, so they were super worth doing. I'm not sure how active they'll be at the moment, but if enough people start playing Season of Discovery again, then they would very much well be worth doing. There were also open world PvP events too, such as the Battle for Ashenvale and the Blood Moon event in STV, where the whole zone became a free-for-all. Again, I'm not too convinced on these activities population giving the slow start to the server revival, but it is something that could potentially make a comeback. These were the mechanics and systems that defined Season of Discovery. They're all in the game right now and available. So that's a brief overview of what Season of Discovery is and how it works. But this game mode has been sitting in maintenance mode for about a year, so why are people coming back to it now? Why the sudden increase in interest, even alongside all these other World of Warcraft options that we have right now, such as TBC Anniversary or Midnight? Well, I think a big thing is classic players just love to play something that feels fresh. And right now the fresh options are kind of limited. So Mr. Pandaria Classic is entering its final stages with Siege of Orgrimmar now on the PTR, and this expansion just hasn't had the hook on players that many expected it to. The raid numbers for Mr. Pandaria are lower than they were for Cataclysm, which seeing it now is surprising considering Mr. Pandaria's reputation as a well-loved expansion. And honestly, for Mr. Pandaria, I think a big sell that it still has is that GDKP still exists, and whilst they exist on a server, the amount of raids are inflated massively because of, let's say, a relatively small amount of people who have a very large interest in running a huge amount of raids. If Mr. Pandaria lost GDKPs, for example, I think the raiding numbers would look closer to Classic era, if not more, because of a snowball effect of player loss. Then we have Burning Crusade Anniversary, and as expected, it's kind of getting into that stage now where it's a raid log expansion. Phase 2's on the horizon for mid-May, which is great. We will see an uptick of players with Serpent Shrine Cabin and Tempest Keep, but then it'll drop back down again once people get into the weekly clears of their raid. It's not that I'm saying TBC is doing poor by any means, the numbers are actually on par, just a little bit lower with the 2021 TBC Classic release, which is remarkable. And both releases had character boosts, by the way, albeit the anniversary ones are more expensive. The format for TBC has always been this way. You get to level cap, you attune for raid, you run heroics for gear, you raid, and then you're done raiding for the week, and in fact you're done on that character for the week. There aren't a ton of compelling reasons to stay logged in, unless you PvP that is, but PvP has always been a niche within Classic. And I think this isn't just World of Warcraft players either, it's MMO players in general. You kind of want something to log in and work towards that feels worthwhile, something that progresses your character in a meaningful way. Once you're at that raiding stage in Classic WoW, your progression is an activity you can do once a week. It puts a hard cap on it. And I've covered it in other videos, but the more early versions of WoW typically lack the horizontal progression systems that more modern expansions have. They also have, and this especially goes for Anniversary, no long-term direction that we're aware of, so people won't really be chasing the completionism stuff outside of Raid very much. It just doesn't feel worth the time investment. I mean, sure, it's all pixels and numbers on the screen, right? It's not technically worth it in the grand scheme of things, but when you put time in and you know something will be there in the future, it makes you want to do it. But as we've seen with Classic Era and TBC Anniversary more recently, if WoW players don't play a version of WoW for around a year or so, maybe a little bit longer, suddenly it becomes interesting again. And that's kind of where we are with Season of Discovery. The demand is rising because people took a break, and it's something different that they're able to grind, even if that is in the short term. In fact, Seasonal Realms should have always broken away from the more traditional MMO format. I do believe in seasonal content, even for MMOs. It can absolutely work. It's working in old school RuneScape right now. The thing with Blizzard and seasonal is they kind of just open the realm with no real plan and let it run for years and years. And really that leads on to the next thing, which is what is the actual plan for Season of Discovery long term? And the answer is, we don't really know. Blizzard have said at multiple different occasions that they would keep these Season of Discovery servers online for a long time to come, but nothing definitive about what happens next. So if you're planning to play, I'd treat it as a bit of fun, something different, but don't get too attached to the idea that your character will have a permanent home there. For me, I'm fully expecting Blizzard to do some kind of consolidation of the various classic versions at or around BlizzCon this year in September, and I think what they'll want to do is funnel everyone who's interested in Classic into some kind of Classic Plus version of the game. This is just speculation on my part, but as far as I can tell, a lot of different versions of Classic are heading towards an endpoint, and I don't think they're just going to keep things running forever and ever without a good reason. Season of Discovery was always called Season, and seasons are made to end. So yes, check out Season of Discovery if you want something different to play for a bit. It's vanilla on steroids with custom content and experimental class changes, but the future is absolutely uncertain, and that uncertainty should be something you realize is there. But assuming you're still interested in giving it a go whilst it's there and you understand its future is a big question mark, how should you actually go about playing it? So Season of Discovery realms are located under the WoW Classic section of the Battle.net launcher, and once you're on the Classic client, you can see the Seasonal Realms tab at the bottom. From what I've seen, the most populated realm on both EU and NA is Wild Growth, and that is the PvE realm. That appears to be where the remaining population is consolidating. So if you're not on Wild Growth currently, you can transfer there for free though through the in-game shop you can see on the UI. You just go to the shop at the top of the screen and then go to the free character transfer option. If you're on Crusader Strike, it appears as though you have to transfer to Living Flame and then from Living Flame to Wild Growth, so a bit of server hopping, which I haven't personally tested, so if somebody in the comments has already done this successfully, confirmation this is exactly how it works would be helpful. For me, my characters are already on Wild Growth, so I can't verify this multi-hop transfer path, though that is how I've heard it works at the moment. From what I can tell, Alliance does tend to be more popular, at least on EU, and that's based just off the number of characters logging in and playing, and the volume of items on the auction house, and it's likely a similar story on NA servers. And I want to end off with, who should be playing these Season of Discovery servers? What type of player are they really for? I'd say they're for a few different types of people. If you're in the TBC raid log stage right now, whether you're clearing Karazhan, Gruul and Magtheridon once a week, or you're just waiting for Phase 2, Season of Discovery gives you something else to do. Phase 2 of TBC Anniversary won't really change that too much either. You'll get into a raid log state relatively quickly after the contents come out. So if you just want more game to play, Season of Discovery is there. If you're like me and waiting for Classic Plus, Season of Discovery is a different version of the game to play. I don't think Season of Discovery will really resemble Classic Plus that much, to be honest. They went in way too hard on character changes and just how powerful characters are. Nevertheless, it's a seasonal server, you're not really meant to think about it that long term, just go and have fun if you want something else to do. And honestly, the leveling is kind of fun. You're playing through that vanilla world, but your character is just so insanely powerful. And honestly, if you want to see it while it's there, now is the time. We don't know how long these servers will remain active in their current form, and all we had is Blizzard's word that they'll keep them up for a long time to come. But how long that long time to come will last after this September is not something I'll be so sure about. And there we have it. So the resurgence happening right now is very modest. People are trickling in because they're just bored with other versions of the game, but still enjoy playing World of Warcraft in a classic setting and just want something else to do. The things I've gone over in this video should give you a fair idea of what Season of Discovery is all about and how to get involved if you want to. And when servers are at this repopulation stage, people are always super helpful because at the end of the day it is an MMO and the game would only benefit from getting new players back in for however long that may be. And that's about all I've got for this video. Let me know if you're playing Season of Discovery, thinking of going back, or you're just still going to be waiting for Classic Plus or whatever the next big thing is. And as always, thank you so much for watching and listening in, and I'll see you all in the next one very soon.